Welcome to Reddit Echoes, where the smallest stories can ruin a career, a relationship, or someone's entire reputation. Today you're in for a wild ride through stories that will make you angry satisfied, and occasionally laugh like a maniac. From food thieves getting neon-colored karma, to cheating husbands trying to keep their moral high ground, to epic doses of revenge served by people who were once underestimated. If you think you've had a bad day, just wait until you hear these. Grab some popcorn, crank up the volume, because you're about to dive into a world of petty revenge, heavy-duty drama, and plot twists that'll have you whispering, "Oh damn, they had it coming." Story 1. The Office Food Thief, and the most disgusting payback ever. I'm not someone who loses their temper easily. Really, I'm not. I'm the kind of guy who shares coffee labels my food, clearly even adds cute post-its on my lunch like, "Do good work today," signed yogurt. But there's a problem. Our office has a serial food thief. And no, I'm not talking about someone accidentally grabbing the wrong sandwich. I'm talking full-on systematic lunch disappearance, like there's a starving ghost living in the company fridge. And that ghost is the boss's son. This 20-year-old kid walks around like he owns the building. He's the self-declared CEO in training and struts into the break room like the chair you're sitting on is in his will. He's stolen my yogurt's juices, even a container of homemade cottage cheese made by my wife with blueberry topping. When I casually brought it up, this little troll looked me dead in the eye and said, "Well, maybe don't bring stuff that tastes so good." Oh, okay. Game on. I went home and told my wife. She's an amazing woman and a little terrifying when she wants to be. She handed me a tiny bottle of bright blue neon food coloring, something she uses to make unicorn cupcakes for our daughter. She winked. Just a few drops. Visual impact guaranteed. Next morning, I brought in a fresh container of cottage cheese. Dropped in a few drops of the blue stuff, stirred gently. Looked exactly like moldy cheese from a bad sci-fi movie. I placed it in the fridge right where I knew he'd find it. Later that day, my co-worker Linda came storming out of the kitchen, furious. "Someone ate all of my lunch again. I barely had anything left." I offered, "Want me to donate mine?" She nodded, and the trap was set. I grabbed the booby-trapped cottage cheese and walked up to His Royal Highness. He was kicked back in a chair, feet on the desk, PS5 controller in hand. Yes, he brings his gaming console to work and chomping on something suspiciously familiar. "Me, hey, is that what you're eating right now?" "Him, yeah, why me?" "I think it's gone bad. Didn't you notice the bright blue stuff? I just pulled it from the fridge." Before I could finish, he projectile vomited across his entire desk. Not a polite gag. Not a little retch. I'm talking full-on stomach reboot all over the desk, his shirt, and his $3,000 gaming keyboard. The whole office froze like a scene from a cartoon. One person gasped, another one choked laughing, someone even clapped. I just stood there, smiled, and shrugged. "Told you it looked off." The boss was called in. He didn't say a word, just stared at his son covered in blue cheese chunks, then looked at the ruined keyboard and figured it out. The next morning, an all-staff email hit our inboxes. "Apologies for yesterday's incident. We'll be updating our shared fridge policy. Please respect others' property from now on." I wasn't scolded. No one blamed me. But from that day forward, nobody touched my food. In fact, someone printed out a photo of the cursed blue cheese and taped it to the fridge, captioned, "The sacred relic of lunch justice." So I asked Reddit, was I wrong for making the office food thief puke his guts out? With just a few drops of food coloring, r/style conclusion. If you steal someone's yogurt, you deserve to taste karma. In bright blue. Me, 0.5 buttholes, boss's kid, 4.5 buttholes, plus 1 bonus point for calling my cottage cheese girly food. Story 2. I brought my new girlfriend to a church picnic, and my ex-wife lost her mind in front of everyone. I'm not the kind of guy who flaunts things or tries to get revenge in public. I used to be the guy who kept the peace, who believed in marriage, in forgiveness, in rebuilding. I was also the kind of man who thought one affair is forgivable. That was me. Before I found out my wife had cheated 4 times. And one of those was with my best friend. From church. Yes, my best friend. The guy who stood beside me at my wedding. Who I called my brother. Who comforted my wife a little too much, while I was working overtime to pay for our kids' tuition. When I discovered the last emotional affair, the type of cheating where they say, it was just emotional, not physical, I'd had enough. I filed for divorce. 2 years later, we're still not officially divorced. She's dragged the process out like some opera tragedy, telling everyone I abandoned her, painting herself as a woman deeply hurt. She played the victim. And me, the guy cheated on 4 times, became the cold-hearted one. I left that church. Started fresh. Met an amazing woman, smart, funny, stunning. We've been officially together since January. By the time this story happens, we'd been dating for 8 months. Then came Labor Day. I told her, hey, my old church does a big annual picnic. Games, barbecue, old friends. We could go if you want. I also warned her my ex-wife will probably be there. But no big deal. We'll just have fun and steer clear. She smiled. And then did something I didn't expect. She baked an absolutely gorgeous cake, wore a pastel blue dress that matched my socks, and handed me a t-shirt that said, "Built for conflict." Let's just say, she understood the assignment. We showed up. I fired up the grill. She laid the cake on the table. People stared. I heard the whispers, "Oh my God." He brought someone new. And then, as expected, my ex-wife appeared. She was dressed to the nines, wearing heels, to a picnic, in a public park, sweating buckets but still trying to play the Hallmark leading lady. She walked up to my girlfriend, gently tapped her on the shoulder, and said, "I'm XYZ, his wife." My girlfriend turned, smiled sweetly. "Nice to meet you," and extended her hand. My ex looked at that hand like she'd just been asked to shake the devils, then said low and acidic, "I hope you're really uncomfortable being here." My girlfriend didn't flinch. "Okay," and calmly went back to cutting cake, like she'd just been told, "It's sunny today." I smiled inside, but of course it didn't end there. About an hour later, my ex found me, grabbed my sleeve and hissed, "You don't belong here. This is my church. You should leave," I replied as calmly as possible. "That's not gonna happen." Then turned back to the grill. A few minutes later, I saw her talking to the pastor, who also happened to be my old friend. He looked at me from across the lawn, sighed, and walked over. "I have to pretend to ask you to leave, to calm her down." I said, "You can tell her I'm here legally, peacefully, and I'm not going anywhere." Later, she slammed her hand on a table and declared I was committing adultery because we weren't officially divorced and I had brought another woman into our sacred community. Guess who comforted her? My ex-best friend, the guy who once slept with her, and his wife. Meanwhile, I stood off to the side holding my girlfriend's hand. We looked at each other and smiled. Not smugly, not out of spite, but that subtle smile you give when you both know someone thinks they're the main character, but they're actually just the villain. The picnic ended. We hugged a few old friends. A couple people looked at my girlfriend like, "Where did you find her?" One even messaged me later. "You won, man." That night I got a text from my ex. "You embarrassed me. She had no right to be somewhere that belongs to me." I replied, "That place doesn't belong to you. Just like I don't belong to you anymore." Now I ask Reddit, was I wrong for bringing my girlfriend to a church picnic where my ex-wife had destroyed everything and letting her humiliate herself in front of everyone? R/style conclusion: she cheated 4 times. But I'm the one who shouldn't be at church. Me 0.5 buttholes, ex-wife 5 buttholes, plus 1 bonus point for wearing stilettos to a picnic. Story 3. My landlord blamed my cat for ruining the floor, so I made him pay double, with the law and legal fees. I'm not usually one for cold revenge. I'm the calm, conflict-avoiding type. I believe in solving things like adults. But if you falsely accuse my cat, withhold my security deposit for no reason, and threaten to call health inspectors over an imaginary smell, then yes, I will make you a textbook example of how not to be a landlord. A few years ago, my wife and I moved out of our old apartment, a place we'd lived in for nearly 3 years. The move-out day went great. Our landlord, a grumpy but polite middle-aged man, came by for the inspection. He walked around and said, "Looks good. I'll refund your deposit in full." We exhaled in relief. We'd even hired a professional cleaning service. I'm a bit OCD, and my wife is the #1 fan of baking soda and Cif. That place was cleaner than the day we moved in. Then 3 days later, we got a voicemail. A long, dramatic voicemail. The landlord sounded pissed and a little theatrical. I was doing renovations and found an awful urine smell in your office. The floor's soaked. The walls are damp. Your cats must have peed there for months. You need to come fix this, or I'll call inspectors, rip out the floor, replace the drywall, and charge you for all of it. Excuse me? My cat, I worked in that room every day. My cats have never peed outside the litter box. And if that level of pee disaster had happened, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have survived sitting in that room. Still, I stayed calm. I called him back and said, "I understand your concern, but I disagree. We left the place spotless, and anything that's happened since is out of our control." That's when he flipped. Went from righteously angry to bully mode landlord. "You'll get the invoice. Just wait." And guess what? We never got our deposit back. Not a single cent. My wife was stressed. I was furious. But I didn't act right away. Instead, I did what people call waiting for the meat to marinate. I researched our local tenancy laws, and I found something glorious. If a landlord fails to provide a reason for withholding a security deposit within 6 months of move-out, they are legally required to return the full amount. I checked the calendar. We were only 3 months in. So, I started counting. 6 months plus 1 day. I sent him a message. "Hi, we still haven't received our security deposit. Please return it within 14 days as required by law." His reply, "Dream on, sweetheart." Perfect. I responded, "Then you'll be hearing from our lawyer." 2 weeks passed, no money, so I actually hired a lawyer. Not to bluff, to act. My lawyer was razor-sharp calm and expensive. She drafted a formal letter demanding full deposit, legal interest, all legal fees. Landlord, still thinking he had the upper hand, fired back with blurry photos, vague damage reports, claims of strange odors. Like he was playing Pictionary Legal Edition. My lawyer replied with one sentence, "The legal deadline for such claims has passed. They are inadmissible." 1 week later, he caved and paid 80% of the deposit. My lawyer followed up for the rest. A week later, he paid everything, but this time he also had to cover full deposit interest legal fees, which were double the original deposit. My wife and I sat in our backyard, opened a bottle of wine, held the transfer receipt in one hand, and burned a copy of the old lease with the other. Nothing has ever felt more satisfying to watch go up in flames. One piece of advice from someone who almost lost it all: know your local rental laws. Because if your landlord tries to screw you, you might just walk away with your money and your dignity. So was I too petty? Just because someone blamed my cat for a fake pee problem and I made them pay double. I don't call that petty. I call that a receipt from karma. Story 4. My mom told me I was autistic for 10 years, so I got revenge with Elden Ring. I get that some moms are overprotective, some are controlling, but my mom was a full-time psychological director, starring me as the lead character in her personal drama about raising a special child. When I was 7, she self-diagnosed me with autism and developmental disorders. Not a doctor, not a teacher, just her after reading a few parenting blogs and binge-buying every book titled "Understanding Your Unique Child." She declared, My son needs special support. The thing is, I was perfectly fine. I did well in school, I had friends, I could spell paleontologist in second grade and knew what it meant. I had zero developmental issues. But she acted like I needed an intervention from Dr. Phil and Oprah. Our house was filled with books like Teaching Autism Through Play, Understanding the Disordered Brain, and the classic How to Help Other Kids Not Be Afraid of Yours. She wouldn't let me listen to modern music. Autistic kids don't understand lyrics. She banned video games. You'll get obsessed and have behavioral issues. And every time I lost a level in a game, she'd go, "See, a normal brain wouldn't struggle like that." At one point, I honestly thought, maybe I do have something wrong with me. Then when I turned 17, I saw a real doctor. He reviewed my history, talked with me, ran actual tests. And after an hour, he turned to my mom and said, "This kid has no disorders. In fact, his IQ is above average." My mom stood there like someone had just told her she wasn't allowed to be the victim anymore. But of course, she didn't stop. "I still see signs," she insisted. "No one's that good at math and still normal." Then came the classics, "Don't study veterinary medicine, you'll crumble under pressure because you're special. Don't play Elden Ring, that game's too complex for people like you. You and your brother are bad at games because your brains are wired differently." I snapped. One day after she told me, "You only suck at games because you're autistic," I booted up Elden Ring, handed her a controller, and said, "Cool, then you try it. If you suck, I guess you're developmentally disordered too, right?" She scoffed, took the controller like she was about to prove me wrong. She didn't know how to jump, didn't know how to attack, couldn't move properly. After 15 minutes of repeatedly dying to the weird wolf thing near the first village, she threw the controller down and screamed, "I don't have time for this stupid crap." I smiled, calm, ice cold. "Huh. Guess you're disordered now too. You couldn't beat it either." From that day forward, she never mentioned the word autistic again. And that's when I realized she wasn't worried about me. She wanted attention. To play the role of the brave mom raising a special child. She loved telling neighbors, co-workers, and teachers I'm strong. I'm raising an autistic son. It all started to make sense when I learned about Munchausen by proxy, a mental disorder where someone invents illness in someone else for sympathy and praise. One Redditor even told me, "You should leave books around the house about early onset dementia. Maybe throw in some brochures for retirement homes." I laughed. And yeah, I did it. The result? Silence. She started avoiding all medical talk. Took down every single special needs book from the shelf. I don't think I'm cruel. I just think I deserve to live with a normal brain and healthy self-esteem. So if someone's trying to tell you there's something wrong with you when you know yourself better than anyone else, believe in yourself. And if necessary, hand them a controller. Boot up Elden Ring, and let karma handle the rest. Story 5, I got assigned Christine's old number, and I wrecked her entire life out of spite. I never applied to be anyone's assistant, especially not some woman named Christine. But fate, or more specifically a phone carrier, had other plans. 3 years ago, I got a new number. Everything seemed fine. Until my phone started blowing up like it was Judgment Day. Texts and calls from exes, yes, plural, and of both genders, debt collectors, a gynecologist, and the best one, Christine's boss. Apparently, Christine had decided to yeet herself off the grid, ditching her number to escape debt drama and adult responsibilities all at once. The problem, she never told anyone. At first, I was polite. Every time someone texted Christine, "Don't forget your 9 a.m. appointment," I'd reply, "Sorry, this is a new number. Please update your records." Their usual response, "Oh, thank you, we'll do spoiler alert." They never did. Weeks turned into months. Politeness turned into mild warnings. I invoked HIPAA on the medical offices. I explained to the nail salon that I genuinely did not want a leg wax. I even responded to one of her ex-boyfriends with a brutal fake breakup text on Christine's behalf, to help him let go. But then, I snapped. After over a year of being Christine's unpaid receptionist, I decided if I have to be Christine, then I'll be the chaotic version. Christine, the shadow clone of vengeance. I stopped replying to appointment confirmations. Then right before the appointment, when they'd send that final "just checking, are you still coming" text, I'd hit them with "Christine won't be coming. Please cancel." OBGYN canceled. Nail appointment canceled. Divorce lawyer consultation gone. No confirmation, no service. Christine, sorry I didn't confirm anything. After a few months, the messages slowed. Clearly, real Christine was starting to lose the trust of everyone she ghosted, probably wondering why every appointment in her life just mysteriously disappeared. But the pièce de résistance came in year 2. I got a text from her boss. "Christine, please be in early tomorrow. Big meeting. Important." Want to guess what I did? I replied, "I quit. I can't work somewhere I'm not respected. No regards, no notice, just me and the chaos." The next morning, I received a very salty text that was unprofessional. No one finds this funny. My response: tell Christine to change her number. If she doesn't, I've got worse lined up. And you know what? She disappeared. No more spa bookings. No more exes begging. No more relatives texting things like "Christine, Auntie Tam passed away." Sorry, Auntie Tam. I grieve with you. I don't know if Christine is living her best life now peacefully and without a stranger sabotaging her dental cleanings. But I slept like a baby. Because after nearly 2 years of nonstop misdirected chaos, I finally restored balance to the universe. Pro tip from someone who's been through the war: if you change your number, update your contacts, or you just might lose your gynecologist appointment and your job. Story 6. You've got more years of experience than I've been alive. Cool. Enjoy being unemployed. I'm not usually the type to hold grudges. But like everyone, I have a mental collection titled "People Who Deserve a Career-Sized Punch in the Face." And the old man I met at a science conference in 2009, he's the dessert course in that collection. After 15 years of chilling in my freezer, I finally served up the wine-braised karma I'd been marinating for him. Let's rewind to 2009. I had just finished my master's. I was the only woman and by far the youngest at a professional conference full of middle-aged, beer-bellied men whose egos were bigger than their poorly formatted PowerPoint decks. A mutual friend introduced me to an industry legend. Guy was about 60, salt and pepper hair, and the kind of voice that sounded like he was constantly lecturing his ex-wife. My friend said, "This is Ms. X, over 10 years of experience and just finished grad school. One of the youngest experts in the field." I extended my hand politely. "It's a pleasure to meet you." He looked me up and down, didn't shake my hand, and said, cold as filtered ice water, "I have more years of experience than you've been alive." Then turned and walked away like my presence had polluted the air. I stood there, hands still outstretched, like a complete idiot. Not because I was fragile, but because I was honestly shocked this man still had teeth after speaking like that to people. Fast forward to now, I'm in management at a major agency. Part of my job, reviewing contractor applications for large-scale projects. Guess whose name popped up on our shortlist 3 times? First time I saw it, I thought I was hallucinating. But no, it was him. "Mr. More years than your lifespan." I told the selection team, "Yeah, this guy. Not great. Known for being disrespectful to women in professional settings. No one wants to work with someone like that." That was all it took. He got dropped faster than an overwaxed eyebrow. Second time his name showed up, I didn't say a word. The team just looked at each other. That's the "I've been in the industry longer than you've been alive" guy, right? Boom. Gone. Third time, I didn't open my mouth. Just smiled and sighed. Someone else said, "Yeah, he's not making it through review." Best part? He has no idea why he keeps getting rejected. He probably thinks kids these days don't know professionalism. But no, my guy, it was me. The little girl you couldn't be bothered to shake hands with. The one you dismissed because I wasn't old enough for your approval. And now I'm the one who decides whether or not you get paid. I don't regret it. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it to protect other professionals from toxic industry veterans who think they're untouchable. Sometimes karma shows up late, but when it does, it's beautifully packaged, delivered right to your desk, just as you pour a glass of wine to celebrate your 15-year career anniversary. And it comes with a label that reads, "You've been cut." And that's it for today's episode of Reddit Echoes. If you've ever had your lunch stolen, been cheated on, or completely underestimated at work, just remember life always has a revenge button, if you're patient enough. And if you happen to be Christine still rocking the same phone number after 3 years, I sincerely hope you're not trying to book a gynecologist appointment next week. Don't forget to like, comment your favorite insane moment, and subscribe so you never miss another revenge story that even karma would applaud. We'll see you in the next video, where villains get clapped back with polite emails and bad behavior gets aired out mid-church BBQ. I'm your host's name, and this is the place where you mess up once the internet remembers forever.